Hello and welcome back to Looking at Books. Today we shall be asking the question, is Niall Marsh's book A Man Lay Dead a copy of The Crime of Black Dudley by Marjorie Allingham? So firstly, we'd like to look at the start. So the start begins in a house. The both of them begin in a house, but of course that's not anything, lots of detective stories begin in a house. But the main point is that both stories focusing on a murder game. So both stories focusing on a murder game that happens, in the house. And for those who may not know what a murder game is, essentially this is a game whereby you, basically, people pretend to have killed someone. So you've got your murderer, you've got your jury, and people have to, ask questions. And it's basically like, Cluedo, but for live people. And you pretend to have killed the person and, basically, essentially, you have to find the killer. And of course, in this, in both stories, the murder game comes into reality. So someone is murdered, and then of course we see that the person is murdered, and then in both scenarios, then the public, the people part of the group, the group of people are then held hostage in the house after the murder game. We see this in both books, and of course, we can see this, and this is, you begin to see, if you read both books, and read them parallel, you begin to see there are certain similarities. The protagonist, of course, the protagonist is in both the stories, is not actually the main character until further into the story. So we see in both stories that for A Man Lay Dead, Inspector Allen is introduced later on in kind of as a main character format. He's introduced a little bit early on, but then it takes a while for him to be introduced as a main character. And of course, in the Crime of Black Dudley, Albert Campion is, he's there, but he's not introduced as a real acting force until a little bit later. Both stories focusing on two separate characters who then later on in their actual prospective series of both authors' series actually, have I think some have actually appeared more than once. I'm not exactly sure about the Crime of Black Dudley, but I know that the Man Lay Dead is definitely that Nigel does appear in multiple other books. So the main thing we see in here is that a lot of the things are similar, and of course both concern gangs. So you might think that this is a generalization, but I don't really I'm not sure if I feel as if I'm kind of not really compelling the full importance of the differences. I would recommend, if you wish, to read both books and read them side by side, and see if you can sort of see the similarities. They begin to definitely, I would say, they begin to sort of veer off from each other towards the middle and end. But I think the main focus is the beginning, and that's what I want to really concern here. I'm not really concerned about the whole book such, but mainly the beginning. And I will say this, of course. If you look at the publication dates, A Man Lay Dead is published after The Crime of Black Dudley. Of course, you could argue that A Man Lay Dead may have been still sort of definitely highly likely that the start was written, as it is one of the first books in the series. You could argue that possibly it's the opposite. Possibly, they copy that Marjorie Allingham copied from an unpublished draft version of A Man Lay Dead. But that's the kind of situation. Basically, they seem to be very similar. And I would say that they do seem to be very similar. If you it can be almost confusing with the character names are different, but with that exception, in some cases they are actually quite similar. To basically put into the main perspective, it is So you've got the beginning. This is a non-main character. This is not the person. So of course, it will be Inspector Alain in A Man Lay Dead, and Albert Campion in The Crime of Black Dudley. Both of them are either side characters, aren't really introduced in full format. If it wasn't for the fact that they are, it says their name in an Albert Campion story, then you wouldn't really consider them as someone who was going to be a main character in the story. So obviously in A Man I Dead, he is an inspector, so he's not actually in the picture at all. So we see this thing whereby a lot of the time both concern daggers, and this is an interesting thing whereby you see a lot of similarities between the two, and one of the main points I would like to consider is, of course, the fact that is this possibly, and this is a question I want to ask, and if anyone does know the answer, please say so below in the comments if anyone is listening to this. You see, what I'd like to ask is this: possibly are both of them getting inspiration from a source? This could mean an actual mystery that happened, or can mean a mystery that someone invented in a story. So that's the question, because of course if something like this did happen, you can't really accuse anyone of plagiarism, seeing as both of them would have taken inspiration for a real life event, and I don't really think we want murderers to be receiving royalty checks for committing crimes. You see, I think that's the main point. That's the main point I wanted to address. Thank you for listening so far. If you want to read the books, I do have links in the description to purchase them. So there you go, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Looking at Books. And thank you for listening once again. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos. This episode has been performed, edited, directed, and produced by Smithco. It has been published by Smithco onto the Smithco YouTube channel. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Looking at Books. Copyright 2021.